跟我一样喜欢看 stand up comedy 吗？我记得我第一次开始接触 stand up comedy 大概是我17岁去美国留学的时候，那时候我就想要学一些英文，还有一些美国的幽默，毕竟这个幽默感算是蛮不一样的。然后那时候在 Netflix 上面有很多这种 stand up comedy 的 specials， 我每一个 special 都会重新看好多遍，然后拿笔记本在那边记录单字什么之类的。而很幸运的，我第一个看的喜剧演员就是 Bill Burr， 那时候 Netflix 很常在推他的 specials， 我也觉得他的幽默感算是接受度蛮高的那一种，不管你来自很多不同的文化，你都比较可以 get 到笑点。像是很多其他的喜剧演员，像是 Dave Chappelle 还有John Mulaney 都没有像 Bill Burr 一样的粗犷感。那这种比较粗犷直接的幽默，在很多文化都是可以被接受的。那 Bill Burr 有非常好的肢体语言，所以其实在很多不同的文化里，就算你英文不是很好，你看了还是觉得很想笑。那我其实看过 Bill Burr 的每个 special， 我也去现场看过他的演出过，但是我就从来没有钻研过他的成长经历，所以今天这部影片算是比较自己的私心一点，想说反正一个不要做一部影片嘛，就做一个自己刚好也想要知道的东西。那 Bill Burr 的真正名字其实叫做 William Frederick Burr， 他在1968年6月10号出生在麻州，他的母亲是个护理师，父亲则是一个牙医，他的家族有德国还有爱尔兰的血统，所以他常可以开玩笑说他皮肤很白之类的。
How you doing? Was this too quick a transition? You know what I mean? Like 9, 10 black dudes in a row and then like the whitest man on the planet. Let your eyes adjust.
那在70年代长大的 Bill Burr， 他成长的背景是在家里非常强调勤俭工作、节俭还有传统的价值观，这也造就了很多他后来喜剧生涯的主题。像是他常常提到童年对他的塑造非常的关键，因为他在成长的过程中，他的情感是非常的压抑的。他常常把波士顿家庭的那一套忍耐一下压着，情绪就会过去了。这个教养的童年风格也成为他后面笑话的基础哦。
I remember we were having waffles. My mother always made Sunday breakfast, so we had all these waffles, eggs, bacon, this whole layout. My brother was looking at half-eaten cube steaks and a little mound of green bean casserole. And he goes, so he looked at my mom, he goes, Mom, can I have a waffle? And she goes, no, you got to finish your supper. He's like, well, after I finish my supper, then can I have a waffle? She goes, no, that is your breakfast. And he goes, oh, Mom, I hate you. And my dad, without looking up, took a full glass of milk and threw it in his face.
1987年，他从高中毕业以后，他其实一度想要成为律师，但他后来发现自己对学术或者是读书实在是真的没兴趣，他就先在北卡罗来纳州立大学读了2个学期，之后转学到了波士顿的爱默生学院，选择传播当做他的主修。毕业后，他缺乏他的生涯方向，所以他跑到了仓库当管理员。但是他其实对仓库的工作念念不忘，原因是因为他很享受那一份自由。他从以前就很不想要被体制绑住，这也是为什么他后来会想要尝试 stand up comedy 来作为他的生涯。1992年，23岁的 Bill Burr 终于鼓起了勇气，参加了一个他在当地报纸看到的波士顿最好笑的大学之星的广告。他在这个比赛表演的还不错，也因为这样让原本害羞的他信心大增。他在这个时候也告诉自己，他要给自己1年的时间，全心全力的投入 stand up comedy。如果1年之后他还没有什么成长的话，他就会放弃这条道路。从1992年起，他开始在波士顿里面竞争非常激烈的喜剧俱乐部里面演出。短短的2年内，他就以敏锐的观察力的笑话打出了名号。他早期的段子就好像一个老朋友在酒吧里在跟你聊天一样，外加一点攻击性非常强，反映他对社会还有自己不满的幽默。然而真正让 Bill Burr 获得大众认可的是他在2004年 Dave Chappelle 的 Chappelle Show 里面的演出。2005年9月 HBO 的 One Night Stand 节目甚至还给他了1集当做他的专场。他的星途也从这边开始呈现指数性的上升。在他越来越红的时候，他甚至还登上了 David Letterman 还有 Conan 的深夜节目。在那个只能在电视机前面得到喜剧演员娱乐的年代，登上这些深夜秀节目也意味着大部分人喜欢喜剧的人都有机会能够看到你的演出。成名后的 Bill Burr 也没有改变他的风格，他一如既往的非常的火爆。2006年 Bill Burr 刚好就在纽泽西州演出，这个场地呢刚好就在费城的对面，这是 Opie and Anthony's Traveling Virus Comedy Tour 的一站哦。当天的观众非常的不友善，已经把他前面好几位的喜剧演员都嘘下台了。轮到 Bill Burr 上场的时候，他当然也是被嘘嘛。换作如果是别人的话，他可能就把笑话简单的讲一讲，草草下台。但是那是 Bill Burr， 他不一样。火爆的 Bill Burr 放弃了他原本准备好的一堆段子，他开始对台下的观众即兴的以幽默的方式攻击了整整12分钟，反复攻击现场的观众还有费城这座城市。
Bunch of fucking losers. Fucking Rocky is your hero. The whole pride of your city is built around a fucking
fucking guy who doesn't even exist. You got fucking Joe Frazier is from there, but he's black, so you can't fucking deal with him. So you make a fucking statue for some 3-foot fucking Italian, you stupid Philly cheese eating fucking jackasses. I hope that cheese melts your fucking faces off.
Bill Burr 后来说到，他当天会不爽，是因为那一天他认为他们拥有最棒的新时代喜剧演员阵容之一，而这群观众却把每一个上台的表演者都当作垃圾来对待。再加上他本来就是一个防卫性比较重、火爆的人，所以他就开嘴了。最令人意外的是，到了这个咆哮的尾段，他竟然把现场大多数的观众都给征服了，还赢得了很多观众的起立鼓掌。这段流出也在网络上爆红，也巩固了他一个火爆无所畏惧的形象。2007年5月开始 ，Bill Burr 每个礼拜还会录他的 podcast， 内容就是有点像在闲聊杂谈，包括他的个人经历啊，还有他巡演的趣事，反正就是他所有人生中遇到的事情，他都会在这个 podcast 上面讲。那其中比较知名的桥段就是他会接受听众的写信，然后以幽默的方式回答这些信件或者是问题。这个 podcast 做了快20年了哦，累积了一群非常死忠的粉丝。这样早期的成功也开始让他慢慢得到了很多专场，像是早期2008年的 Why Do I Do This， 还有2010年的 Let It Go。这时候的 Bill Burr 可以说是火力全开。2012年 You People Are All the Same 作为史上第一部 Netflix 独家播映的脱口秀特辑，也因为这样，他的脱口秀特辑后来就常常在串流平台上面出现，像是2019年的 Paper Tiger， 他首度入围了葛莱美奖最佳喜剧专辑，然后2025年的 Drop Dead Years 更是拿下2项艾美奖的提名还有葛莱美提名。这时候他的性格其实更温和了一点，谈的更多的是他身为一个正在老去男人的悲伤，还有跟过去自己的自我和解，似乎是在有了一个女儿以后，他变得比较软一点了。除了喜剧以外，2023年 Bill Burr 公布了他一个长片导演的处女作，叫做 Old Dads， 故事就在讲述3个年近50的爸爸好友们，他们在卖掉经营23年的公司以后，发现自己完全跟不上这个不断改变的世界。片中那个接下这个生意的千禧年老板，想把公司改造成一个性别中立、碳中和的21世纪服装品牌，与3个主角的旧世界观就是完全格格不入。那也因为这样，很多冲突还有笑点就这样产生了。那 Bill Burr 其实也说到，这部电影就有点像是他现在人生正在遇到的事情，因为他也是中年以后才开始当爸爸的嘛。他说片中的主角就很像他，代表了他内心那个很固执又愚蠢的人，但却很想要把自己变得更好。不过影评的反应其实非常的两极哦，像是在烂番茄评价只有27%而已，但是在 IMDB 有6.2，所以还算是还可以。那这部电影刚出的时候我有看，我觉得之所以这部电影评价没有这么好，是因为如果你要说这部电影非常的好笑，它也没有到很好笑。那如果你要说它是要探讨中年才当爸爸的心灵情境，那它也没有探讨到非常的深入，所以最后就变成一个除了 Bill Burr 以外蛮平淡没有什么特色的一部电影。那在事业高达巅峰的 Bill Burr， 其实在他背后有一个非常支持他的老婆。年轻时的 Bill Burr 对婚姻有非常多的怀疑，如果你知道 Bill Burr 的话，你就知道2000年代的时候，他有很多的段子都在质疑人们到底为什么要结婚。
Let me ask you a question. Why the hell do people keep getting married? You know what I mean? Isn't anybody looking at the stats? You know what I mean? 3 out of 4 marriages go right down the shitter, right? If you were going skydiving and they told you 3 out of 4 parachutes weren't going to open, you'd be like, yo, fuck that, I'm not going. Like, I don't like those odds. I have a 75% chance of splatting on the ground. But there's something about getting married. People just have to do it, right? They're just like, is this the line to lose half my shit? Awesome. This is gonna be great.
然而改变他的是 Nia Hill， 他比 Bill Burr 小将近10岁，父母离异以后，他的童年就在亚特兰大还有洛杉矶里面长大。Nia 与 Bill Burr 一样，在爱默生学院毕业之后，他还是从事幕后的工作。他曾在 MTV 里面担任星探，还是2003年 Comedy Central 的 Chappelle Show 里面的协调人员。然而 Bill Burr 最早见到他老婆 Nia 是他在 Apollo 演出的时候，当时 Nia 父亲在那边工作，所以他就跟去了。但真正开始互动是他在上 Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn 之后。
Dude, my wife is hilarious.
She's funny in your podcast too.
No,
she's very funny.
She's funnier than a lot of comedians I know. She's fucking hilarious, and but she has this. What I love about her, she's got this spirit, man. She's just really like when I met her, man. Like I never met anybody like. There's very few people I've met in my life that have like an energy where you just like, wow. Like I want to be around that. Like she just had this amazing, like really, like she just throws herself into shit, and I was really kind of. I was more like guarded and all of that. So it was sort of the perfect kind of balance.
他们两个人于2013年9月结婚，之后他们生了2个小孩，分别是生在2017年的女儿，还有生在2020年的儿子。脾气暴躁的 Bill Burr 在有小孩了以后，也慢慢的软化。他坦言到，偶尔女儿会见到他的怒气，但 Bill Burr 总是很快的能把气氛给缓和过去。他也常常在节目上提到他的小孩子。
You and your lovely wife Nia have a 1-year-old son?
Daughter, 1-year-old daughter. No, it's all right. It's all right.
It's all right.
What, are you supposed to memorize what everybody has?
No, I have one guy whose job it is to tell me if it's a son or a daughter, and he's...
有趣的 Bill Burr 除了在 Conan 之外的节目，毕竟很多人都喜欢 Conan， 我在猜，他也常常在各个其他的节目来攻击主持人，当然是以幽默的方式啦。只要是 Bill Burr 上过的节目，那一集在 YouTube 上面的点阅率都还蛮不错的，因为很多人都想要进来听 Bill Burr 会怎么样来调侃主持人，像是在上 Bill Maher 的 Podcast 上面调侃了他对以色列还有哈马斯的看法，一出来马上就引爆全网炸锅。
Have you heard what's going on college campuses these days?
I don't watch the news.
You don't realize that college campuses erupted with the kids demonstrating for Hamas? They are in with the terrorists.
They were for the Palestinians.
Well, it's sort of the same cause. Why, are you?
I'm on the side of the kids.
Yeah, that's easy to say. No one wants to see kids dead. This is a war.
That was very brave of you to say.
This is a war. No, I'm the one who's actually brave on this.
Pat yourself on the back.
It's easy to say I'm for the kids. Who's not for the kids?
Well,
it comes down to real hard-nosed decisions, like a country.
Stop talking like you're a general.
A country.
Let's go to Russia and the Ukraine. How do you solve that one, Bill? Let me hear your hard-nosed decision about that.
还有就是他上 Joe Rogan 的时候 ，Joe Rogan 是一个在 COVID 期间非常反对要戴口罩的人。对 Joe Rogan 质问 Bill Burr， 你真的觉得大家都要戴口罩吗 ？Bill Burr 是这样回答他的。
You want people to walk down the street with a mask on?
Let's not start this, Joe.
Do you though?
Let's not start this. Okay.
Let's start it.
I don't want to start this bullshit. I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, acting like we know what's up. Better than the CDC. All I do is I watch the news once every 2 weeks. I'm like, mask or no mask? Still mask? All right, mask. That's all I give a fuck about. I don't care.
But even they say you shouldn't wear a mask unless you're treating a coronavirus patient. The World Health Organization.
Yeah, but they didn't say that initially. They didn't say it initially.
No, they didn't.
They did, and then it gradually, and then wait, and then everybody wore the fucking masks. This is like rollerblading. Everybody fucking rollerbladed, and then there was that one fucking homophobic joke, and then everybody acted like they never did it. And then 100 million fucking rollerblades got thrown into the fucking ocean. We all wore masks, and then all of a sudden, people are fucking sitting there. What? You don't have the body type for it, dude. Your fucking knuckles would scrape on the ground, even with that extra 2 inches. I just love how wearing a mask became like this fucking like soft thing that you were doing, like being courteous. Being courteous. Why is it for bitches? That was so stupid.
Wearing a mask. First of all,
oh God, you're so tough with your fucking open nose and throat. Gee, Joe, and your 5 o'clock shadow. This is a man right here. A man doesn't wear a mask.
之后他还上了 Theo Von 的节目，很多人说 Bill Burr 有点做过头了。整个节目看起来好像是 Theo Von 非常喜欢 Bill Burr， 但是 Bill Burr 却一直在数落他，一直在调侃他。但 Bill Burr 后来说，他自己完全没有察觉到自己有在非常极度的调侃他，他反而觉得 Podcast 录制的非常的顺利。
I was just like experienced like a ton of stress, man, burnt out. I've been on the same tour for this hour for almost over a year now.
Dude, bands tour for like 4 years and then fucking go right back in the studio, make another one, and keep going. You got to toughen up, man.
Yeah, you're right, huh? What do I do?
Your camouflage hat, looking like a fucking backwoods guy, all tough and shit. You can't handle doing your hour again. I mean, come on, man, suck it up.
那在这个左右派越来越极端的世界里，Bill Burr 反而有一种左右都不是很讨好。虽然 Bill Burr 是比较明显偏左派的，他自己也说过，但是保守派的人很喜欢他骂一些政治正确的话题。
Women are so overrated, right? We went from We went from not listening to them to now it's ridiculous. Like that Believe women. It's like all of them. How about 85%? I'll give you 87%, all right? But that last 13% that keys your car, lights your shit on fire, and puts a family pet in a pot of stew? Who put a pet in a pot of stew?
Glenn Close.
Oh, Glenn Close, yeah.
Okay, all right.
自由派有点喜欢听他骂亿万富翁还有权贵。
Well, it's a positive time, Jimmy.
Yeah, it really is.
Billionaires are not happy having $1 billion. Why does Elon Musk dress like he just got out of a Hot Topic? I am so sick of that guy trying to rewrite his origin story like he was Matthew McConaughey pulling into the high school. It's like you were a nerd, nobody banged you, and now you have hair plugs and your laminated face.
所以他常常从不同的角度讲出了自己的真心话，而且我觉得非常值得一提的是 ，Bill Burr 的段子听起来是非常的自然，他没有像一些喜剧演员一样会刻意的使用一些停顿来凸显自己的笑点。当然，停顿有时候他还是有的，但是就是感觉起来没有这么刻意。但是还是要说一下，他的桥段和很多的 timing 都是精心设计过的，只是感受上没有这么刻意而已。我之所以会这样讲，是因为他有时候这个桥段会用在不同的节目还有不同的演出上，然后他表达这些桥段的方式跟时间点几乎就是一模一样的。你呢？你喜欢 Bill Burr 吗？留言告诉我你最喜欢的 stand-up comedian 是谁？那今天这个影片比较短，就水个影片一下，拜拜。